The chandelier light caught the 3-carat diamond on Victoria Ashford's hand as her arm rose high in the air. The entire dining room of the Sterling held its breath. 100 guests. Silverware frozen mid-air. Conversations died mid-sentence. Every eye locked on the woman in the charcoal Armani suit and the waiter standing before her. Marcus Bennett stood absolutely still, his face calm, his hands at his sides. He had maybe half a second to decide what kind of man he was going to be. 30 seconds earlier, he had set a plate of Wagyu steak in front of her, $200 worth of perfectly seared beef. She had looked down at it, and her face had changed, from pleasant to furious in the space of a heartbeat. "You made me look like a fool in front of my clients," her voice carried across the restaurant. Tables turned. Phones came out. Marcus kept his tone respectful, professional, the way he had been trained. "Ma'am, I can get you another one right away." "No, you will stand there and take what's coming to you." Now her hand was coming down. Fast. Open palm aimed directly at his face. A slap, public humiliation in front of Boston's elite. The kind of moment that happened in restaurants like this more often than anyone wanted to admit. The unspoken rule was simple. Staff took it. Customers got away with it. Money always won. But Marcus thought about his 7-year-old son asleep at home, Tyler, who still believed his father could protect him from anything, who would one day ask what Daddy did when someone tried to hurt him. What would Marcus say? That he stood there and let it happen. That some people get to hit you because they have money and power and you have neither. His hand shot up. Caught her wrist in midair. Firm grip, not violent, not aggressive, just stopping the motion 6 inches from his face. "I will apologize for the mistake with your meal, but I will not allow you to put your hands on me. Not now, not ever." He released her wrist, stepped back, hands at his sides again. The silence in the Sterling was absolute. Victoria Ashford stared at him, her mouth open, her eyes wide with genuine shock. No one had ever stopped her before. No one had dared. Then her expression shifted, from shock to calculation to rage. He grabbed me. He put his hands on me." The restaurant manager, David Hutchins, was already running toward them, his face pale with panic. "Marcus, what have you done?" Victoria's voice shook, but her words were sharp and deliberate. "He assaulted me. I'll sue. I'll destroy you." Marcus released her wrist and took one careful step backward. His voice stayed level, almost eerily calm. "That's not what happened. You physically touched a customer without permission, in front of 100 witnesses." David grabbed Marcus's arm, pulling him toward the hallway. His whisper was harsh and urgent. "Get your things. You're done." But Marcus wasn't moving. His eyes stayed on Victoria, then shifted to the ceiling, to the small black cameras mounted in the corners of the dining room, the cameras that recorded everything. "Before we dive into what happens next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. Are you Team Marcus, or do you think he crossed a line? Let me know." 6 hours earlier, Marcus's alarm had gone off at 6 in the morning. The sun wasn't up yet. His apartment in Dorchester was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic on the expressway. He had pulled himself out of bed, showered in 3 minutes, and walked down the narrow hallway to Tyler's room. His son was still asleep, curled up under dinosaur sheets, one arm wrapped around a stuffed triceratops. Marcus had stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching. Tyler's face was peaceful, safe. That was all that mattered. He made breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. By the time Tyler stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes, the food was already on the table. "Morning, buddy." Tyler climbed into his chair and yawned. "Morning, Dad." They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then, Tyler looked up his fork halfway to his mouth. "Dad, why do you work at night?" Marcus set down his coffee mug. He had answered this question before, but Tyler asked it every few weeks, like he was hoping the answer would change. "Because that's when I can help people have their best moments, buddy. Anniversaries, birthdays, celebrations. I get to be part of that." Tyler frowned, pushing eggs around his plate. "But I miss you." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He reached across the table and ruffled Tyler's hair. "I know. I miss you too. When I'm older, can I work with you? Maybe. But you're going to be something even better. Dr. Astronaut, whatever you want." Tyler smiled at that. Then his face turned serious again. "Dad, what do you do if someone's mean to you at work?" Marcus paused. The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean? Like if someone yells at you or says you did something wrong?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. "Well, if I made a mistake, I apologize and fix it. But if someone's just being mean to be mean, I stay calm. I don't let them make me angry. Even if they're really mean. Even then. Because getting angry doesn't help. You just do your job and be proud of the work you do." Tyler nodded, absorbing this. "Okay." After breakfast, Marcus drove Tyler to school. They listened to the radio. Tyler told him about a science project on volcanoes. Marcus promised to help him build the model over the weekend. When they pulled up to the curb, Tyler unbuckled his seatbelt and grabbed his backpack. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, Ty. Have a good day." Tyler ran toward the entrance, his backpack bouncing. Marcus watched until his son disappeared through the doors. Then he checked his phone. Bank account balance $847. Rent due in 5 days, $1,200. He closed the app and drove home. He had 6 hours before his shift started. He spent them cleaning the apartment, doing laundry, paying bills online, and trying not to think about how tight things were. At 3 o'clock, he put on his work uniform. Black pants, white shirt, black vest. Polished his shoes. Checked his reflection in the mirror. Professional, invisible, ready. He arrived at the Sterling at 4:15. Early, like always. The restaurant didn't open until 5:30, but the staff needed time to set up. The Sterling sat on Newberry Street in Boston's Back Bay overlooking the Charles River. 5 stories of historic brick and granite with floor-to-ceiling windows that caught the afternoon light. Inside, crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. White tablecloths stretched across 50 tables. The silverware was real silver. The wine cellar held bottles worth thousands of dollars each. This was where Boston's elite came to see and be seen. CEOs closed deals over 30-ounce porterhouse steaks. Politicians entertained donors with $100 bottles of wine. Socialites celebrated birthdays with champagne that cost more than Marcus made in a week. The average dinner cost $400 per person. The wait list was 6 weeks long. Getting a reservation required either money connections or both. Marcus had worked here for 5 years. He knew the menu by heart, knew which wines paired with which dishes, knew how to read a table and anticipate what they needed before they asked. He had learned the unspoken rules that governed places like this. Rule 1, the customer was always right even when they were wrong. Rule 2, staff were meant to be invisible. Present when needed, gone when not. Rule 3, wealthy people could say or do almost anything, and you smiled and took it. Rule 4, if you complained, you were replaceable. Marcus had seen servers fired for less than rolling their eyes. He had watched managers grovel to customers who threw food, who snapped their fingers, who treated staff like servants. Once, a congressman had thrown a wine glass at the wall because his steak was overcooked. The server had cleaned it up without a word. The congressman had received a complimentary dessert and an apology. That was how it worked. Money bought immunity. Marcus had developed his own survival strategy over the years. He absorbed insults without reacting. He apologized even when the mistake wasn't his. He let condescending comments slide off him like water off glass. When customers snapped their fingers at him, he came running. When they called him boy or you there, he answered politely. Every time he thought of Tyler, thought of rent, thought of groceries and school supplies and the electric bill. Swallowed his pride and kept moving. David Hutchins, the restaurant manager, was already in his office when Marcus arrived. David was 45, balding, with the kind of permanent stress lines that came from 15 years in hospitality management. He was a decent man who had learned to prioritize profit over principle because that was how you kept your job. Marcus, good you're early. We've got a full house tonight. Senator's wife at Table 7 Tech CEO at Table 19 and Victoria Ashford at Table 12. Marcus nodded. He knew Victoria Ashford. Everyone who worked at the Sterling knew her. She came in twice a week, sometimes more. She spent roughly $60,000 a year at the restaurant. She brought business associates, potential investors, politicians. She treated the Sterling like her personal dining room and the staff like her personal servants. Victoria Ashford was 43 years old and CEO of Ashford Properties, one of the largest real estate development firms in New England. She controlled a portfolio worth over $500 million. Boston Magazine had named her one of the city's most powerful women 3 years running. She knew the mayor personally. She had senators on speed dial. She sat on the boards of half a dozen nonprofits and cultural institutions. She was brilliant, ruthless, and utterly accustomed to getting her way. Marcus had served her dozens of times. She never said please or thank you. She changed her order multiple times and blamed the server when the kitchen couldn't keep up. She talked over staff mid-sentence as if their words didn't matter. She snapped her fingers to get attention. She complained about everything, demanded discounts despite spending thousands, and left tips that were exactly 15% calculated to the penny. But she spent money, lots of it, and at the Sterling that bought forgiveness for almost anything. At 5:30, the first guests arrived. Marcus moved through his section with practiced efficiency. He greeted regulars by name, recommended wines, described specials, cleared plates, refilled water glasses. The rhythm was familiar, comforting even. He was good at this job. He took pride in doing it well. At 8:47, during a brief lull, he stepped into the kitchen alcove and pulled out his phone. Texted Mrs. Rodriguez, his neighbor who watched Tyler on Friday nights. "How's he doing?" The reply came quickly. "Sound asleep. Read him 2 chapters like you asked. Thanks, home by 11. Marcus looked at his phone's wallpaper. Tyler at the park, grinning, holding up a leaf he had found. 7 years old and still amazed by the world. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and returned to work. At 9:15, Victoria Ashford walked through the front doors. She wore a charcoal gray suit that probably cost $3,000. Louboutin heels clicked against the marble floor. A Hermès bag hung from her shoulder. The 3-carat diamond ring on her finger caught the chandelier light as she moved. 3 people followed behind her. Business associates. Marcus recognized the type. Investors she was trying to impress. People whose money she needed. The hostess practically bowed as Victoria approached. "Mrs. Ashford, your usual table is ready." "Good." 1 word. No thank you. No acknowledgement of the hostess as a person. They walked to table 12 near the center of the dining room. Prime location. Maximum visibility. Victoria wanted everyone to see her to know she was here to recognize her power. Marcus wasn't assigned to that section. Emma Chen was. Emma was 22 years old, fresh out of college, working 2 jobs to pay off student loans from Boston University. She had started at the Sterling 2 weeks ago and was still learning the ropes. Marcus had trained her the previous week. She was smart, eager, hard-working, but still terrified of making mistakes. He watched from across the room as Emma approached table 12, notepad in hand. Her posture was stiff, nervous. Victoria didn't look up. She was talking to her associates, gesturing with her hands, dominating the conversation. Emma stood there waiting. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Finally, Victoria acknowledged her with a slight turn of her head. Wagyu ribeye. Rare. Very rare. I want it practically mooing. Emma wrote quickly. Yes, ma'am. Wagyu rare. Triple the garlic butter. No black pepper. I'm allergic. And if there's any pepper, I will know. Emma's hand shook slightly as she scribbled. No pepper, extra garlic butter. Good. And make sure it's done right. New girl, aren't you? Emma's face flushed. Yes, ma'am. It's my second week. Victoria turned to her associates, her voice loud enough for Emma to hear. New girl. We'll see if she can handle a simple order. The associates laughed. Polite, uncomfortable laughter. Emma's face turned bright red. She finished writing and hurried toward the kitchen. Marcus saw her hands trembling as she clipped the order to the pass. He walked over, glanced at the ticket. You okay? Emma nodded, but her eyes were watery. She's really intimidating. Yeah. Just stay calm. You've got this. Emma smiled weakly and went back to the floor. Marcus looked at the ticket again. Something nagged at him, but he couldn't place it. The handwriting was rushed, a little messy. He saw Wagyu rare and 3x garlic butter. He didn't see no pepper. Emma had heard it. She had meant to write it down. But in the moment, with Victoria's condescending tone and the associates laughing, her hands had been shaking too much. She had forgotten to add that crucial detail. The kitchen prepared the steak exactly as the ticket indicated. Perfectly seared Wagyu seasoned with salt and black pepper, served with triple garlic butter on the side. At 9:45, the order was ready. Marcus picked up the plate from the pass. The steak looked perfect, medium rare with a beautiful crust. The butter glistened. He didn't notice the fine specks of black pepper across the surface. They were too small, too subtle. He carried the plate through the dining room. The Friday night crowd was in full swing. Conversations blended into a low hum. Classical music played softly. Everything was running smoothly. Marcus approached table 12. Victoria was mid-sentence telling a story to her associates. They were leaning in, listening attentively. This dinner was clearly important to her. A performance. A demonstration of her power and influence. He set the plate down in front of her with a polite smile. Wagyu ribeye rare with triple garlic butter. Enjoy your meal, Mrs. Ashford. Victoria glanced down at the plate. Her expression changed instantly, from animated to frozen. Her eyes locked onto the surface of the steak. The smile vanished from her face. Her jaw clenched. The conversation at the table stopped. Marcus stood there waiting. He knew something was wrong, but didn't know what yet. Victoria's voice came out low and dangerous. What is this? It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. Marcus kept his tone professional. Your Wagyu, ma'am. Is something wrong? Pepper. There is black pepper on my steak. Her voice rose. Heads at nearby tables turned. Conversations began to fade. Marcus felt his stomach drop. I apologize. Let me check with the kitchen about the order. Check with the kitchen. Really, that's your solution. She was standing now. Her chair scraped against the hardwood floor. The sound cut through the dining room like a gunshot. I specifically said no black pepper. I have an allergy. Do you understand what that means? Do you even listen when customers speak? 20 tables were watching now. Phones were coming out. Marcus could see the shift happening, the way a small mistake was becoming a public spectacle. Ma'am, I sincerely apologize. I'll have the kitchen remake it immediately. You just humiliated me in front of my clients." One of her associates shifted in his seat, looking uncomfortable. Another glanced away. They could sense this escalating beyond reason. Victoria saw their reactions, saw doubt creeping into their faces. This dinner was supposed to impress them, to show them she was in control, that she commanded respect everywhere she went. Instead, she looked incompetent, powerless. Unable to even get a simple dinner order right, she needed to regain control, needed to reassert her authority, needed someone to blame. "Do you know who I am? Do you know what I spend here, $60,000 a year, and this is the service I get?" Marcus stood very still. His heart was pounding, but his face remained calm. He had been through this before. Different customer, same script. The key was to stay professional, to de-escalate, to fix the problem. But Victoria wasn't interested in fixing problems. She was interested in making an example. "You made me look incompetent. There are consequences for that." Her hand rose into the air. The entire restaurant held its breath. Marcus saw it happening, saw the hand rising, saw the intent in her eyes. He had maybe half a second to decide what to do. Stand there and take it. Keep his job, pay his rent, feed his son, or draw a line, refuse to be hit, and risk losing everything. He thought of Tyler's question that morning. "What do you do if someone's mean to you at work?" He thought of his answer. "I stay calm, I don't let them make me angry." But that wasn't the full truth, was it? The full truth was more complicated. The full truth was that he had learned to accept humiliation because he had no choice. Because power always won. Because people like Victoria Ashford could do whatever they wanted, and people like Marcus Bennett just had to take it. Her hand was coming down, fast, aimed at his face. And Marcus made his choice. Marcus's hand shot up and caught Victoria's wrist in midair. The motion was clean, precise, not violent, not aggressive, just stopping the slap 6 inches from his face. His grip was firm enough to halt the momentum, but controlled, professional even in this moment. His other hand remained at his side. He wasn't grabbing her, wasn't pushing her, just preventing impact. The restaurant froze. 100 people stopped moving. Forks hung in midair. Conversations died mid-word. The classical music playing through the speakers seemed suddenly too loud in the silence. Victoria's eyes went wide. Her mouth opened slightly. Shock registered across her face, genuine and complete. No one had ever stopped her before. No one had dared. Marcus looked directly into her eyes. His voice came out steady and clear, loud enough for the entire dining room to hear. "I will apologize for the mistake with your meal, but I will not allow you to put your hands on me. Not now, not ever." He released her wrist and took one deliberate step backward. Both hands at his sides now, non-threatening, but also unbowed. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria stood there, her arms still suspended in the air for a moment before she slowly lowered it. Her face flushed red. Not with embarrassment, with rage. She had never been told no. Not like this. Not in public. Not by someone who was supposed to be invisible. Around them, the restaurant began to stir. Phones came out. 30, 40 people were already recording. Some openly holding devices up. Others pretending not to, angling phones from their laps. This was the kind of moment that went viral. The kind that ended up on social media within minutes. Everyone knew it. Victoria seemed to realize this too. Seemed to understand that whatever happened next would be watched by thousands, maybe millions. Her expression shifted, from shock to calculation. She was brilliant, ruthless, and she knew how to control a narrative. Her voice came out shaky, wounded. the performance of someone who had been wronged. He grabbed me. He put his hands on me. One of her associates, an older man in a navy suit, stood up quickly. "Victoria, are you all right?" She turned to him, and Marcus saw her playing the moment perfectly. The slight tremble in her shoulders, the way she'd touched her wrist where Marcus had held it as if checking for damage. I was trying to get the manager's attention, just raising my hand to signal, and he grabbed my wrist. He restrained me. Marcus felt ice in his stomach. She was rewriting what had just happened, right in front of everyone. "That's not what happened," Marcus said quietly. Victoria whirled on him, her voice rising again. "You physically touched a customer without permission, in front of 100 witnesses." Her 3 associates were all standing now, gathering around her protectively. The older man in the navy suit glared at Marcus. That was completely inappropriate. The woman beside him, dressed in an expensive gray suit, nodded. "I saw him grab you, Victoria." The 3rd associate, a younger man with silver hair, pulled out his phone. "Should I call the police?" Marcus looked around the room. The diners were splitting into factions before his eyes. At table 8, an elderly man in a sweater stood up. "Now, hold on a minute. That's not what I saw at all." Victoria turned toward him, her expression cold. "Excuse me." The elderly man, probably in his 70s, spoke clearly and firmly. "I was sitting right there. I saw the whole thing. You were about to slap that young man and he stopped you. That's self-defense, not assault." A young couple at table 15 held up their phone. "We recorded it. Want to see?" Victoria's face flickered. Just for a second. Fear. But she recovered quickly, turning back to her associates. "The angle was unclear. What happened was assault. He put his hands on me without consent." Her associates nodded in agreement. The older man in the navy suit spoke loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "I saw what I saw. This waiter became physical with Mrs. Ashford. That's unacceptable in any circumstance." The woman in gray added her voice. "He seemed aggressive from the moment he approached the table, like he was looking for confrontation." Marcus felt the narrative slipping away from him. Felt the weight of their money, their connections, their polished credibility crushing his version of events. 3 well-dressed business executives against 1 waiter. The math was simple. David Hutchins appeared moving fast across the dining room. His face was pale, panicked. He had been near the entrance when this started and hadn't seen what happened, but he could see the result. Victoria Ashford standing at her table surrounded by her associates with the entire restaurant watching. David positioned himself between Marcus and Victoria, his hands raised slightly as if separating fighters. "Mrs. Ashford, I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. Please let me handle this situation personally." He gripped Marcus's elbow fingers tight enough to bruise and steered him toward the hallway that led to the kitchen. They moved just out of the dining room's direct sightline, but not far enough that people couldn't watch if they craned their necks. David's whisper came out harsh and urgent, his face inches from Marcus's. "Are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea who that is?" Marcus kept his voice low but steady. "She was about to slap me." "I don't care. You do not put your hands on customers, ever." "She put her hands on me first." David's face flushed red. He glanced back toward the dining room where Victoria still stood at her table, her associates gathered around her in concern. Several other diners had their phones out, some openly recording, others pretending not to, while they captured every moment. This was already spiraling out of control. David could see it, could see his career, his reputation, maybe even his job evaporating in real time. He turned back to Marcus, his voice dropping even lower. "Listen to me very carefully. Mrs. Ashford spends $60,000 a year at this restaurant. 60,000. She brings clients here twice a week. She knows the owner personally. She golfs with the governor. So money means she can hit people. Welcome to reality, Marcus. Yes, that's exactly what it means. The words hung in the air between them. Brutal, honest, terrible. David continued his tone, almost pleading now. You should have taken the slap, apologized, moved on. That's how this works. That's how it's always worked. You're telling me to let customers assault me. I'm telling you to do your job. Your job is to make wealthy people happy, period. If that means taking some abuse, he shrugged, then yes. Marcus stared at him. Really looked at him. David wasn't a bad person. He was just a man who had made peace with a corrupt system because fighting it was too expensive. Marcus had done the same thing for 5 years. Swallowed insults, accepted blame, let rich people treat him like furniture, because he needed this job, because Tyler needed to eat. But standing here now with David telling him he should have let Victoria Ashford slap him in front of 100 people, something inside Marcus finally broke. Not with anger, with clarity. This was the choice. This was the line. And once he crossed it, there was no going back. I'll apologize for the mistake with the meal, Marcus said quietly, but I won't apologize for defending myself. David's expression hardened. Go back out there right now and beg for her forgiveness. Maybe you keep your job, or you can keep your pride and lose everything. He leaned closer, his final threat delivered in a whisper. And if you don't apologize, I'll make sure every restaurant in Boston knows you put your hands on a customer. You'll never work hospitality again. Not here. Not anywhere. Marcus thought about Tyler, about the bills due next week, about the fact that this job was the only thing keeping them afloat. He thought about what kind of example he was setting, what lesson he was teaching. No, Marcus said. David blinked. What? I said no. I'm not apologizing for stopping someone from hitting me. Before David could respond, a small voice cut through the tension. Mr. Hutchins, wait, please. Both men turned. Emma Chen stood at the edge of the hallway. Her eyes were red. Mascara had run down her cheeks. Her hands trembled as she clutched her notepad. She looked like she might collapse, but she forced herself to step forward toward the dining room. David reached out to stop her. Emma, not now. She shook her head and kept walking, her voice growing louder as she entered the main dining area. It was my fault. Heads turned. Victoria looked over, her expression still twisted with righteous anger. Emma walked directly toward the table 12, her hands clasped in front of her like a penitent child. Mrs. Ashford, I'm so sorry. I was the one who took your order. Her voice cracked, but she pushed through. I forgot to write down the part about no pepper. Marcus was just bringing out what the kitchen made based on my ticket. This is my mistake, not his. For a moment, Marcus thought this might actually work. Emma was giving Victoria an out, a way to redirect her anger toward someone who was admitting fault, someone younger, more vulnerable, easier to blame. But Victoria's face didn't soften. If anything, she looked even more furious. So, both of you are incompetent. Is that what you're telling me? Emma flinched but stood her ground. I made the mistake with the order, ma'am, but Marcus didn't do anything wrong. Victoria's voice rose with each word. One of you can't take an order correctly, and the other doesn't know how to check what he's serving. And when I tried to address this disaster, I was physically assaulted by a member of your staff. She emphasized the word assaulted, letting it hang in the air like an accusation. The room shifted again. Some diners who had been watching with mild interest suddenly leaned forward. This wasn't just a complaint about food anymore. This was something potentially criminal. Victoria pointed directly at Marcus, her finger shaking. He grabbed my wrist. He put his hands on me without my permission. That's assault. I want both of them fired immediately, but especially him." She turned to David, "And I want it understood that I will be pursuing legal action for what happened here tonight." Marcus felt the trap closing, saw how this would play out. His word against hers, a waiter against a CEO. Someone replaceable against someone who spent $60,000 a year. The math was obvious, but then the elderly man at table 8 stood up again. His voice carried across the room, firm and clear. "That's not what happened, and you know it." Victoria whirled on him. "I beg your pardon." "I was sitting right there. I saw everything. You raised your hand to slap him. He stopped you. That's not assault. That's self-defense." His wife stood beside him nodding. "We both saw it, very clearly." The young woman at the table 15 held up her phone again. "We have video. It shows exactly what happened." Victoria's confident expression flickered. Marcus saw the fear flash across her face again, just for an instant. But her associate in the Navy suit stepped forward, his voice carrying the kind of authority that came from decades of boardroom negotiations. "I have to disagree, sir. What I witnessed was a staff member becoming physical with a customer. Mrs. Ashford was simply trying to get someone's attention, and this waiter grabbed her. That's inappropriate regardless of the circumstances." The woman in gray nodded vigorously. The waiter's attitude was very confrontational from the start. He seemed angry when he brought out the food. Marcus stood very still, watching the room divide. Watching people choose sides based on money power assumptions about who deserved belief. Some supported him. The elderly couple, the young couple with their phone. A few others who had seen clearly what happened, but others supported Victoria. Her associates, obviously, but also other wealthy diners who believed instinctively that staff should know their place, that crossing certain lines even in self-defense was unacceptable. The neutral majority watched uncertain, swayed by whoever spoke most convincingly. David stood frozen, calculating which version would cost the restaurant less in the long run. Victoria sensed her advantage returning. She straightened her shoulders and addressed David directly, her voice cold and precise. "I want this man removed from the premises immediately, and I want a formal written apology from the restaurant by tomorrow morning." She paused for effect. "If I don't receive both of those things, I will contact my attorney and we will discuss what legal remedies are available for what happened here tonight." David nodded. Too quickly. The decision made. "Ryan, you need to leave now. We'll sort this out tomorrow, but right now you're done for the evening." Marcus stood very still. This was it. The moment where he either accepted defeat and walked away hoping things would somehow work out tomorrow, or where he pushed back even harder and risked losing everything tonight. He pulled his phone out of his pocket. His hands were steady as he unlocked the screen. "I want to see the security camera footage." The dining room went silent again. Victoria's face went pale. "What?" Marcus's voice was quiet, but absolutely clear. "This restaurant has cameras everywhere. If I assaulted you, it'll be on video. If you tried to hit me first, that'll be on video too." He pointed to the ceiling, to the small black cameras mounted in the corners. "So let's watch it, right now, in front of everyone." David stepped forward, panicking. "Marcus, let's not escalate this. We can handle this internally tomorrow." Marcus kept his eyes on Victoria, watched her face carefully, watched the way her certainty was beginning to crack around the edges. "No, this woman just accused me of assault. She said she's calling her lawyer. If that's the direction this is going, then I want evidence." He held up his phone. "I want everyone in this room to see exactly what happened. If I'm wrong, I'll accept whatever consequences come." Pause. "But if I'm right, I want everyone to know it." Victoria's voice came out sharper than before, but there was something defensive in it now. This is ridiculous. I don't need to prove anything. I'm the customer. I'm the one who was assaulted. Marcus took a step forward. Not aggressive, but deliberate. Then you shouldn't have any problem with us checking the cameras. If your version is true, the video will show it. And if my version is true, the video will show that too. He could see the fear starting to show in Victoria's eyes now. The realization that she might have overplayed her hand. She glanced at David, her voice taking on a different tone. Something closer to pleading. Look, this has gotten out of hand. Maybe we don't need to involve cameras or lawyers. I'm willing to accept an apology and move past this. Marcus shook his head slowly. No, ma'am. You just told everyone in this room that I assaulted you. You said you were calling your lawyer. You demanded I be fired. His voice stayed calm, almost gentle, but there was steel underneath. You can't take that back now just because you don't want to see the video. Pause. If you really believe I assaulted you, then let's look at the evidence. And if you don't want to look at the evidence, then maybe you know the evidence won't support your story. David looked between them, his face a mixture of terror and calculation. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I'll get the security footage. Victoria's mouth opened, closed, opened again. David, I really don't think that's necessary. But David was already moving toward his office, his decision made. Better to know the truth now than to face a lawsuit later. Victoria returned to her seat slowly. Her associate sat with her, but the dynamic had shifted. They exchanged glances that suggested they were reconsidering their association with her. The other diners pretended to return to their meals, but their attention remained fixed on table 12, waiting for the next act. Marcus stood near the kitchen entrance, his arms at his sides, his breathing steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through his system. Emma lingered nearby, wringing her hands together, her eyes still red from crying. The minutes stretched out. Each one felt longer than the last. Marcus checked his watch. 5 minutes had passed since David left, then 6, then 7. The longer they waited, the more he could see Victoria's confidence beginning to crack. She kept glancing toward the hallway, kept shifting in her chair, kept touching her hair and adjusting her jewelry in small, nervous gestures. Her associates sat in uncomfortable silence. The older man in the navy suit checked his phone repeatedly. The woman in gray stared at her wine glass. The younger man with silver hair looked like he wanted to leave but didn't dare. At nearby tables, conversations had resumed, but they were quieter now, subdued. Everyone was waiting. At table 8, the elderly man sat back down but kept his eyes on Marcus. His expression was supportive, encouraging. The young couple at table 15 reviewed the video on their phone, their heads close together, whispering. A businessman at table 7 approached Marcus and pressed something into his hand. Marcus looked down. $200 bills. For standing up for yourself, the man said quietly. Keep fighting. He returned to his table before Marcus could respond. 8 minutes, 9. Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. A text from Mrs. Rodriguez. Everything okay? News is saying something happened at your restaurant. Marcus stared at the message. News already. He looked around the dining room, saw at least 30 phones pointed in various directions, saw people typing rapidly, posting, sharing. This was already out there, already spreading. Whatever happened next, it would be public. 10 minutes. David emerged from the hallway carrying an iPad. His face was unreadable, carefully neutral in the way of someone who had just seen something he didn't want to deal with. He walked slowly toward the table 12, and the entire restaurant seemed to lean forward collectively. Marcus didn't move from his position. He wanted everyone to see this, wanted there to be no question about what had happened. David set the iPad down on an empty table near Victoria and tapped the screen a few times. The video quality was better than Marcus had expected. The camera angle came from above and slightly to the side, capturing the entire table and the area around it in clear detail. David positioned the screen so that Victoria and her associates could see it, but also so that nearby tables had a view. Several diners stood up and moved closer, their curiosity overcoming their attempts at politeness. The timestamp on the video showed 9:23 p.m. 11 minutes ago. David pressed play. The video played without sound, but it didn't need any. The footage was sharp, clear. No ambiguity. The timestamp read 9:23:17 p.m. Marcus approached table 12 carrying the plate. His posture was relaxed, professional. No tension in his shoulders, no aggression in his movements. He set the Wagyu steak down in front of Victoria with a small, polite smile. Said something. Probably, "Enjoy your meal." Victoria's eyes went to the plate. Her expression changed instantly, from neutral to fury in less than a second. Her mouth opened wide. Her hand gestured sharply at the plate, then at Marcus. Marcus stood still. His body language remained calm, non-confrontational. He appeared to be responding, trying to explain or offer help. But Victoria wasn't listening. Her gestures grew larger, more aggressive. She pointed at Marcus at the plate at her associates. Her mouth moved rapidly, clearly yelling. The three associates at her table looked uncomfortable. The older man in the navy suit shifted in his seat. The woman in gray glanced away. The younger man stared at his wine glass. Other diners at nearby tables turned to look. Phone cameras came out. Then Victoria stood up. The timestamp read 9:23:31 p.m. Her chair scraped back. She rose to her full height, her face flushed with anger. She was shouting now, her mouth moving in exaggerated motions, her finger jabbing toward Marcus. Marcus hadn't moved. Still standing in the same position, professional, calm, his hands at his sides. Victoria's right arm rose into the air. 23:38 p.m. There was no mistaking the motion. Her hand was open, palm facing Marcus. The arc was clear and unmistakable. This was a slap, deliberate, aimed directly at his face. The trajectory was perfect. If it connected, it would hit him square across the left cheek. David paused the video at 9:23:39 p.m. The frozen frame showed Victoria's hand suspended in midair, 6 inches from Marcus's face. Her expression was twisted with rage. Her body weight was shifting forward into the motion. Marcus's face was calm, waiting. The dining room was absolutely silent. David let the video play. 9:23:40 p.m. Marcus's hand shot up. Fast but controlled. His fingers closed around Victoria's wrist, stopping the slap in mid-swing. The contact was precise. Not grabbing, not yanking, just intercepting. His grip looked firm but not violent. His other hand remained at his side. He wasn't restraining her, wasn't pushing her, just preventing the impact. For 2 seconds, they stayed frozen like that. Marcus holding her wrist. Victoria's mouth still open in mid-shout. Then Marcus's lips moved, speaking. Whatever he said took maybe 3 seconds. At 9:23:45 p.m., he released her wrist and took one clear step backward. Both hands returned to his sides. The video continued for another 10 seconds. Showed Victoria standing there, her arm slowly lowering. Showed Marcus maintaining his distance. Showed the crowd gathering, phones rising. David stopped the playback. The silence in the Sterling was complete. No one moved. No one spoke. Every eye in the restaurant was fixed either on the iPad screen or on Victoria's face. Her expression had gone from confident to pale. Her mouth hung slightly open. Her eyes were wide with the dawning realization that she had been caught in a lie. Not a small lie. Not an exaggeration. A complete fabrication that had just been disproven in front of dozens of witnesses. The elderly man at table 8 nodded firmly. That's exactly what I saw. Exactly. The young couple at table 15 held up their phone, showing their own recording. Our video matches that perfectly. Other diners murmured in agreement, their voices low but carrying clearly in the shocked quiet. Victoria's 3 associates sat frozen, staring at the screen. Then at her. Then at each other. The older man in the navy suit stood up abruptly. His chair scraped against the floor. The sound was loud in the silence. "Victoria, you told us he grabbed you first." His voice was quiet but hard, accusatory. Victoria turned to him, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Richard, I can explain. The angle doesn't show everything. He was aggressive, he was. The angle shows everything." Richard's voice rose slightly, not shouting, but firm, final. "You were about to slap him. That's assault. And when he defended himself, you tried to destroy his career by lying about it." He grabbed his coat from the back of his chair. "We're done here. The Seaport development deal is off. I'm not doing $50 million in business with someone who does this." Victoria reached out toward him. "Richard, wait, please. We can discuss this." But he was already walking away, buttoning his coat as he moved toward the exit. He didn't look back. The woman in gray, Linda, stood next. She was a lawyer. Marcus could see it in the way she moved, the careful precision of her words. "As your attorney, Victoria, I need to advise you that if this video goes public, you could face criminal charges for attempted assault and civil charges for defamation." Victoria's voice came out desperate. "Linda, you can't just leave. You've been my lawyer for 8 years." Linda's expression was cold, professional. "I can't defend someone who lied to me. I watched you tell this entire restaurant that he assaulted you. The video proves that's false." She picked up her Hermes bag. "Don't call me. I'm withdrawing from all your cases effective immediately." She walked out without another word. The third associate, Tom, stood more slowly. He was younger than the others, probably early 40s, with silver hair and expensive glasses. "The waterfront project. It's off." Victoria's face crumpled. "Tom, please. We've been planning that for 2 years. We've been planning it with someone I thought I knew, someone I thought had integrity." He shook his head slowly. "I was wrong about you, Victoria. Completely wrong." He turned to Marcus before leaving. "I'm sorry you had to deal with this. No one should have to." Then he was gone, too. Victoria sat alone at table 12, surrounded by empty chairs and half-finished meals. The $400 bottle of wine still sat on the table, barely touched. The Wagyu steak had gone cold. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Around the restaurant, reactions began to ripple outward. The young couple at table 15 approached Marcus. "We got it on our phone, too. Do you want us to send it to you for evidence?" Marcus nodded, still processing what had just happened. "Thank you. Yes, that would help." A businessman from table 7 walked over and pressed cash into Marcus's hand. Marcus looked down. $300 bills. "For having the courage to stand up," the man said. "For all of us who never could." An elderly woman from table 11 approached, tears in her eyes. "My son is a waiter in Cambridge. He's been slapped twice. Both times he just took it because he was afraid of losing his job." Her voice broke. "Thank you for showing him it's okay to have dignity." But not everyone supported Marcus. A wealthy couple at table 3 stood up, the husband's face red with indignation. "This is outrageous. The customer is always right. This kind of insubordination is exactly what's wrong with service workers today." His wife nodded sharply. We're never coming back here if the restaurant allows staff to treat guests this way." They stormed toward the exit, leaving their half-eaten meals on the table. A younger man at table 20 called out, "Good riddance. We don't need customers who think they can hit people." The divide in the room was clear. Most supported Marcus, but a vocal minority believed he had crossed a line that should never be crossed regardless of provocation. David stood near the iPad watching everything unfold. His face had gone through several transformations in the last minute. Shock, relief, calculation, and now something that looked like genuine remorse. He walked slowly toward Marcus, extended his hand. Marcus looked at it for a long moment, then shook it. "I was wrong," David said quietly. "I should have defended you from the start." Marcus's voice was equally quiet. "You were protecting the business." "No, I was protecting money. There's a difference." David glanced back at Victoria, still sitting alone at the table 12. "She spends $60,000 a year here. You know what you're worth to this restaurant?" Marcus shook his head. "More than that," David said firmly. "A lot more." He gestured around the dining room. "Half these people are here because of servers like you, because you make them feel welcome, because you remember their names, their preferences, their kids' birthdays, because you care." Pause. "Victoria came here to show off, to demonstrate power. You came here to work, to provide for your son, to do a job well." David pulled out his notepad and started writing. "The Sterling doesn't need customers like Victoria Ashford, but it needs employees like you." Marcus felt something loosening in his chest. Relief, maybe, or vindication. "So, I still have a job. You have a job, and we're implementing new policies, effective immediately." David wrote as he spoke. 1. Any customer who physically threatens or touches staff will be removed from the premises. 2 staff have the right to defend themselves without fear of termination. 3 management will review security footage before making disciplinary decisions. 4 zero tolerance for verbal or physical abuse of employees. He looked up. "This should have been policy years ago. I'm sorry it took this to make it happen." David turned to address the entire dining room, raising his voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption to your evening. To make amends, all meals tonight are complimentary." Applause broke out, scattered at first, then building. But David wasn't finished. He walked toward the table 12 where Victoria still sat. "Mrs. Ashford, I think it's best if you leave." Victoria looked up at him. Her eyes were wet. Her mascara had run slightly. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I just lost my temper." "What you meant doesn't matter. What you did is on camera. And what you tried to do afterward, accusing Marcus of assault when the video clearly shows self-defense, that's unforgivable." David's voice softened slightly but remained firm. "You're no longer welcome at the Sterling." Victoria flinched like she'd been slapped. "David, I've been coming here for 6 years. And in those 6 years you've treated my staff like servants. You've complained, demanded, belittled, and tonight you tried to assault one of them, then you lied about it." He shook his head. "Money doesn't buy you the right to hurt people. I should have told you that years ago." Victoria stood slowly. She looked around the room, saw every eye on her, saw phones still recording, saw the judgment in people's faces. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. "I'm sorry." The words came out barely audible. David waited. Victoria turned to face Marcus, really looked at him. For the first time seemed to see him as a person rather than a servant. "I'm sorry," she said again, louder this time. "I was wrong." Her voice cracked. "I came here tonight to impress people, to close a deal, to show how powerful I am. Tears started down her cheeks. And when something went wrong with my meal, something small, I lost control. I decided that humiliating someone would make me feel powerful again. She took a shaky breath. I was going to slap you. You were right to stop me. And when you did, I tried to destroy you because I couldn't handle being told no. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I don't know when I became this person. Someone who treats people like they're beneath me just because I have money. She addressed the room now. I'm sorry you all had to witness this. I'm sorry to the staff of this restaurant. And I'm especially sorry to you, Marcus. Marcus stood silent, watching her. Processing. Victoria pulled out her wallet with shaking hands, withdrew a stack of bills, left them on the table. For Marcus and for Emma. This doesn't fix anything, but it's all I can offer right now. She picked up her coat and bag, walked toward the exit. The elderly man at table 8 spoke as she passed. You forgot something. Victoria stopped. Your dignity, he said quietly. But I don't think you'll find it here. Victoria's shoulders shook. She kept walking. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Silence held for 3 heartbeats. Then the elderly man stood again, started clapping. Slow, deliberate, respectful. One person joined, then another, then another. Within 10 seconds, 100 people were on their feet, applauding Marcus. It wasn't wild cheering. It wasn't celebration. It was something deeper, more meaningful. The sound of recognition, of respect, of witnessing someone stand up for themselves and win not through aggression but through simple, stubborn dignity. Emma appeared at Marcus's side, tears streaming down her face. She wrapped her arms around him in a quick, grateful hug. You didn't just save your job, she whispered. You saved mine, too. And you saved everyone else who's ever been afraid to stand up. Marcus returned the hug briefly, then gently stepped back. You stood up for me when it mattered. That took courage, too. The kitchen staff emerged from the back. Chef Ricardo, the sous chefs, even the dishwashers, all clapping. Chef Ricardo approached his weathered face serious. 20 years in this business, I've never seen anyone do what you did. Thank you for reminding us that we're people, not servants. Other servers surrounded Marcus. Diane, a senior server who had worked at the Sterling for a decade, gripped his shoulder. Every single time I wanted to push back against a rude customer, I didn't. I was too scared. Thank you for being brave enough. Marcus looked at all of them. I just couldn't teach my son that it's okay to let people hurt you. The applause continued for another 30 seconds, then gradually faded as people returned to their tables, but the atmosphere in the restaurant had changed. Something had shifted. An invisible line had been redrawn. Customers began approaching Marcus throughout the rest of the evening. A woman from table 9 handed him her business card. I run a restaurant group, 6 locations across Massachusetts. If you ever want a management position, call me. Name your salary. A man from table 14 did the same. My company needs people with your integrity. We're always looking for leaders who know how to stand up for what's right. A food blogger from table 18 asked if she could interview him. This story needs to be told. People need to hear about what happened here tonight. Marcus felt overwhelmed, exhausted. I just want to finish my shift, he said to each of them. Polite but firm, but the night wasn't over. While Marcus had been dealing with the aftermath, the video had been spreading. The young couple from table 15 had uploaded their footage to Twitter with the caption, Waiter hero stands up to abusive customer at Boston restaurant. Watch what happens when he refuses to be slapped. Within 30 minutes, it had 50,000 views. Within an hour, 500,000. By the time Marcus finished clearing his section at 10:30, the hashtag Marcus Bennett was trending on Twitter. He checked his phone during a brief break. 147 notifications, text messages, voicemails, social media mentions. The responses were divided. Many supported him. This is what dignity looks like. Every service worker deserves this respect. I've been waiting my whole career for someone to do this. Hero. This man just changed the industry. But others opposed him. The customer is always right, period. He should have been fired on the spot. Entitled workers are destroying the service industry. Victoria Ashford is being cyberbullied for having standards. Society was splitting down familiar lines. Those who believed in hierarchy and deference versus those who believed in basic human dignity regardless of economic status. Marcus turned off his phone and put it in his pocket. He still had tables to clear, orders to take, work to finish. The Sterling was still open. Guests were still dining. Life continued, but everything had changed. At 11 o'clock, David approached him near the kitchen. "Go home, Marcus. See your son. We'll deal with the rest tomorrow." Marcus looked at him. "What rest?" "The interview requests, the news stations, the lawyers who want to represent you pro bono, the customers demanding refunds because we banned Victoria, the other customers praising us for banning her. The owner wants to meet you. The corporate office wants a statement." David rubbed his eyes tiredly. "It's going to be a circus for a while, but tonight just go home. Be with Tyler." Marcus nodded slowly. "Thank you." He changed out of his work clothes in the staff room, put on jeans and a t-shirt, grabbed his jacket. Emma caught him before he left. "Marcus, I just want to say thank you, again, for everything." "You already thanked me." "I know, but I need you to understand. You didn't just help me tonight. You helped everyone like me. Everyone who's ever been scared. Everyone who's ever taken abuse because we need the job." She wiped her eyes. "You showed us it's possible to stand up. That's worth more than you know." Marcus gave her a tired smile. "Get some rest, Emma. Tomorrow's another shift." He left through the back door, avoiding the small crowd of reporters that had gathered out front. Someone must have tipped them off. News traveled fast in Boston. The night air was cool. October in Massachusetts. The city was settling into its late-night rhythm. Traffic had thinned. The streets were quieter. Marcus walked to his car, a 2012 Honda Civic parked 3 blocks away in a cheaper lot. His phone buzzed constantly in his pocket. He ignored it. As he unlocked the car, his phone rang. Not a text, an actual call. He looked at the screen. Mrs. Rodriguez. He answered. "Hello, Marcus. Oh, thank God, are you okay? It's all over the news. Someone tried to hit you." "I'm fine, Mrs. Rodriguez. Everything's okay. Tyler's asleep, but the news is saying your name. They're saying you're a hero." Marcus closed his eyes. "I'm not a hero, I just didn't want to get slapped." "That makes you a hero to a lot of people, mijo. Come home, your boy is fine, but you need rest." "I'm on my way. Thank you for watching him." He ended the call and sat in his car for a moment. Hands on the steering wheel. Engine off. The radio came on automatically when he started the car. A news anchor's voice filled the cabin. "Breaking news tonight from Boston's Back Bay, where a confrontation between a customer and a waiter at the upscale restaurant The Sterling has gone viral. The incident raises questions about workplace dignity, customer entitlement, and the rights of service workers. We'll have more after this break." Marcus turned off the radio. He just wanted quiet, just wanted to go home. The drive to Dorchester took 20 minutes. The streets were mostly empty. Red lights felt longer than usual. Marcus's mind was racing despite his exhaustion. What happened tomorrow? Would he really still have a job? Would Victoria actually sue? Would this video follow him forever? He thought about Tyler, about explaining this to a 7-year-old. Daddy stood up to someone who tried to hurt him. That was the truth, simple, clear. But the world was already complicating it, already turning it into something political, something divisive, something bigger than one moment in one restaurant. Marcus pulled into his apartment complex at 11:47, climbed 3 flights of stairs. His legs were tired. His back ached. He'd been on his feet for 7 hours. He unlocked the door quietly. The apartment was dark except for the glow from the kitchen nightlight. Small, modest, but clean. Photos of Tyler covered the walls. Drawings from school hung on the refrigerator with magnets. Mrs. Rodriguez was on the couch reading a magazine. She stood when Marcus entered. "How are you really?" she asked, studying his face. "Tired, confused, relieved, I think." She showed him her phone. The video was playing on mute. Marcus watched himself catch Victoria's wrist. Watched the frozen moment of decision. 2.3 million views, Mrs. Rodriguez said. "You're famous." "I don't want to be famous. I just want to make rent." She smiled gently. "You did good tonight, Marcus. Real good. Tyler's going to be so proud when he finds out." "I might have also lost my job." "You didn't lose anything important." She pointed toward Tyler's bedroom. "That boy is what's important. And you showed him something valuable tonight even if he doesn't know it yet." After Mrs. Rodriguez left, Marcus stood alone in his quiet apartment. Checked the locks, turned off lights. The familiar routine grounded him. He pushed open Tyler's bedroom door gently. The room was small, a twin bed with dinosaur sheets, a nightlight shaped like the moon, stuffed animals piled in the corner, drawings taped to the walls. Tyler was curled up under his blankets, breathing deeply. Peaceful. Safe. Marcus sat carefully on the edge of the bed, reached out and smoothed Tyler's hair back from his forehead. The boy stirred slightly but didn't wake. Marcus kept his hand there for a moment, feeling the warmth of his son's head, the steady rise and fall of his breathing. This was why. Not for fame. Not to make a statement, not to start a movement, but because someday Tyler would ask, "Dad, what do you do when someone tries to hurt you?" And Marcus could say, "You stand up, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary." He leaned down and whispered so quietly that even if Tyler had been awake, he might not have heard. "I hope someday you'll understand. Standing up for what's right is always worth it, even when it costs you everything." He kissed Tyler's forehead, stood up slowly, walked out of the room, leaving the door cracked open the way his son liked it. Tomorrow he would wake up, make breakfast, help with homework, maybe go back to work, maybe not. But tonight he had drawn a line that needed drawing, and he had shown his son, even if the boy didn't know it yet, that dignity wasn't something you could buy or sell or take from someone who refused to give it up. Marcus woke to sunlight streaming through his bedroom window. For a moment he forgot where he was, forgot what had happened. Then his phone buzzed on the nightstand. 83 new text messages, 47 missed calls, 612 notifications across social media. It came flooding back. He picked up the phone and scrolled through the messages. David. "Don't come in today. Media circus outside. Call me when you're up." Emma. "Thank you forever. I mean it." Unknown numbers. Channel 7 News wants an interview. Attorney offering pro bono representation. Book deal opportunity. Marcus set the phone down and rubbed his face. It was 7:30 on a Saturday morning. Tyler would be up soon. He needed to make breakfast. Needed to figure out what to say. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that his father was all over the internet? He got out of bed, showered quickly, and went to the kitchen. Started making pancakes. Tyler's favorite, with chocolate chips. By the time the batter was ready, Tyler appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, Dad." "Morning, buddy." "Sleep okay?" Tyler nodded and climbed into his chair at the small kitchen table. "Mrs. Rodriguez said something happened at your work." Marcus flipped a pancake, buying himself a second to think. "Yeah, something happened." "What?" Marcus plated the first pancake and brought it to Tyler, sat down across from him. "A customer got upset about her food. She tried to hit me. I stopped her." Tyler's eyes went wide. "She tried to hit you?" "Yeah." "Why?" "Because she was angry and she thought she could." Tyler processed this fork halfway to his mouth. "Did you get in trouble?" Marcus smiled slightly. "No, buddy. I didn't get in trouble." "Good, because you were just protecting yourself, right, like you told me." "That's right." Tyler took a bite of pancake, then looked up again. "Dad, you're on TV." Marcus blinked. "What?" Tyler pointed toward the living room where Mrs. Rodriguez must have left the television on low volume before she went home last night. Marcus walked over and turned up the sound. A local news anchor was speaking. The video has now been viewed over 8 million times. Marcus Bennett, a single father working at the Sterling, has become a symbol for many who believe the service workers deserve basic dignity and the right to defend themselves from assault. The screen showed the security footage. Marcus catching Victoria's wrist, the freeze frame, then cut to interviews with people on the street. He's a hero, plain and simple. "I work retail, and I've wanted to do what he did 1,000 times. Good for him. People need to learn you can't just hit whoever you want. But also, he was out of line. The customer pays his salary. This is what's wrong with workers today. No respect." Marcus turned off the television. Tyler was standing beside him now, staring at the blank screen. "That was you, Dad." "Yeah." "You're famous." "I guess so." Tyler thought about this for a moment. "Is that good or bad?" Marcus knelt down to his son's eye level. "I don't know yet, buddy. But what matters is, I did the right thing. Even though it was scary." Tyler hugged him, suddenly wrapping his small arms around Marcus's neck. "I'm proud of you, Dad." Marcus felt his eyes burn. He hugged his son back. "Thanks, Ty. That means everything." They finished breakfast together. Marcus kept his phone off, ignored the world outside their small apartment. For a few hours, it was just the two of them, building Legos, reading books, being normal. But at 10 o'clock there was a knock on the door. Marcus looked through the peephole. David Hutchins stood in the hallway holding a coffee and a folder. Marcus opened the door. "How did you find my address?" "Employee files. Sorry for showing up unannounced. Can we talk?" Marcus let him in. Sent Tyler to his room to play. David sat at the kitchen table, set down the folder. "First, you still have a job. That's not up for debate. The owner called me this morning. He wants you back on Monday." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Okay, good. Second, we're making changes. Real changes. I wrote up the new policies last night." He opened the folder, showed Marcus a typed document. "Staff Bill of Rights. Every employee gets a copy. It outlines your right to refuse service to abusive customers, your right to defend yourself, management's responsibility to support you. This is going in every employee handbook moving forward." Marcus scanned the document. It was comprehensive, specific, binding. "This is good. It should have existed 5 years ago. I'm sorry it didn't." David pulled out another paper. "Third, this is a written apology from the restaurant for not supporting you immediately, for prioritizing money over your safety. We're posting it publicly." "You don't have to do that." "Yes, we do. Because it's the truth." David leaned back in his chair. "Marcus, You didn't just stand up for yourself last night. You forced all of us to look at what we've been accepting, what we've been enabling." He paused. "The Sterling has operated on the principle that wealthy customers can do whatever they want. That needs to end, and it's ending because you drew a line." Marcus didn't know what to say. David stood up, extended his hand again. "See you Monday. Take the weekend. Spend it with your son. The circus will die down eventually." After David left, Marcus sat at the kitchen table for a long time looking at the documents. Real change. In writing. Maybe it was worth it after all. The weekend passed in a blur of phone calls Marcus didn't answer, and news coverage he tried to avoid. But on Sunday night, Tyler asked to watch the video. "Everyone at school is talking about it, Dad. I want to see." Marcus hesitated, then pulled it up on his phone. They watched together. Tyler was quiet throughout. When it ended, he looked up at Marcus. "You were really calm. I was really scared. But you didn't look scared. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are." Tyler nodded seriously. "I get it now." Monday morning, Marcus returned to work. There were reporters outside the Sterling. 3 news vans. Marcus used the back entrance. Inside, the staff greeted him with applause. Quiet. Brief. But genuine. David called a meeting before the dinner shift. All 23 staff members gathered in the back room. Servers, cooks, dishwashers, bartenders. David stood at the front holding copies of the new policies. As of today, the Sterling operates under new rules. If a customer becomes verbally or physically abusive, you have full authority to call a manager immediately. You have the right to refuse service. You have the right to defend yourself if threatened. He looked around the room. Management will back you, always. No exceptions. Your safety and dignity come before any customer's money. One of the older servers, a woman named Diane who had worked there 12 years, raised her hand. What if the customer is a regular? What if they spend a lot? Doesn't matter. The rules apply to everyone. Another server asked, "What if we make a mistake and the customer is rightfully upset? They can be upset. They can complain. They cannot threaten or touch you. There's a difference between legitimate complaints and abuse." David distributed the printed policies. "Read these. Know your rights. And if anyone, customer or management, tries to violate them, you come to me. Or you go straight to the owner. This is the new standard." The room was quiet. Absorbing. Then Chef Ricardo spoke from the back. "It's about time." Agreement rippled through the staff. That Friday night, Marcus's first full shift back, a customer at table 9 started yelling at a server about a delayed appetizer. The server, a young guy named James, stayed calm and professional. "Sir, I apologize for the wait. The kitchen is running about 10 minutes behind tonight. I can check on your order." The customer slammed his hand on the table. 10 minutes, that's unacceptable. "Do you know how much I'm paying for this meal?" James's voice stayed steady. "I understand your frustration, sir. Let me see what I can do. Don't walk away from me when I'm talking to you." David appeared within seconds. "Sir, I'm the manager. What seems to be the problem? Your server is incompetent. I want him fired." David glanced at James, who shook his head slightly. "No abuse, just frustration." "Sir, our server has been professional and polite. I'll personally check on your appetizer, but I need you to lower your voice and treat our staff with respect." The customer's face reddened. "Are you telling me how to behave? I'm asking you to be courteous. If you can't do that, I'll have to ask you to leave." The table went quiet. This was new. Unprecedented. The customer looked around, saw other diners watching, seemed to realize he was the one being unreasonable. "Fine. Just get my food." David nodded. "Right away, sir." He walked to the kitchen with James. "You handled that perfectly. Don't let customers like that shake you." James looked amazed. "You actually backed me up." "That's the policy now. Get used to it." Word spread quickly among the staff. The new rules were real. Management actually meant it. Morale shifted. Servers stood a little taller, spoke a little more confidently. The Sterling's reputation changed too. Some wealthy customers stopped coming. Those who expected absolute deference, who treated staff as servants, found other restaurants. But new customers came. People who had seen the video. People who wanted to eat at a restaurant that respected its workers. Revenue didn't drop. It actually increased. Turns out, people liked dining where the staff were treated well. 3 months after the incident, Tyler brought home an assignment from school. "Write about your hero." Marcus found the essay on the kitchen counter one evening. The title read, "My Hero." Tyler's handwriting careful and deliberate. "My hero is my dad. Not because he's on TV or because he's famous, but because he showed me that you don't have to be mean to be strong. One time at his work, someone tried to be mean to him, and instead of being mean back, he was just brave. He said, 'No, you can't treat me like that.' And some people got mad at him, but he didn't care. He knew he was right. My dad says heroes aren't people who never get scared. Heroes are people who do the right thing even when they're scared. That's why he's my hero." Marcus read it 3 times. Set it down carefully, wiped his eyes. This was the real victory. Not the viral video, not the news coverage, not the job security. This, his son understanding, learning, growing into someone who would stand up for himself too. He took a photo of the essay and saved it on his phone. 6 months after that Friday night in October, Marcus was promoted to assistant manager. He still worked the floor, still served tables, still remembered regular customers' names and preferences. But now he also trained new staff. On a Friday evening in April, a new server named Rachel was starting her first shift. Marcus gathered the evening team before opening. "Remember the rules. You're not invisible. You're not beneath anyone. You provide a service, and that service has value." Rachel raised her hand nervously. "What if a customer is really rude?" "What do I do?" Marcus smiled. "You stay professional. You stay calm. But you also maintain boundaries. Respect goes both ways. If someone crosses a line, you call a manager immediately. What if they're a big spender? Doesn't matter. The policy is the same for everyone." Rachel looked relieved. Later that night, Marcus was seating a couple at table 12, the same table where it had happened. The elderly couple smiled at him. "We read about what happened here," the husband said. "That's why we came. We wanted to eat at a restaurant that respects its workers," the wife added. Marcus shook their hands. "Thank you, that means a lot." The Sterling was packed that night. Every table full. A 6-week waiting list. Business was thriving. At 11 o'clock, Marcus's shift ended. He said goodbye to the staff, changed out of his work clothes, and headed to his car. His phone buzzed. A text from Tyler sent from Mrs. Rodriguez's phone. "Love you, Dad. See you soon." Marcus smiled and typed back. "On my way home, buddy. Love you too." He drove through Boston's quiet streets. The city lights reflected off the Charles River. Spring air drifted through the open window. His life had changed in 6 months. Promotion, better pay, respect from colleagues and customers. But the biggest change was internal. He no longer carried the weight of swallowed pride. No longer accepted humiliation as the price of employment. He had drawn a line, and in doing so, he had helped others draw their own lines. Marcus pulled into his apartment complex, climbed the familiar 3 flights of stairs. Inside, Tyler was already asleep. Mrs. Rodriguez had left a note. He ate all his dinner, did his homework, asked when you'd be home. He loves you very much. Marcus walked quietly to Tyler's room, pushed open the door. His son was curled under the dinosaur sheets, breathing softly, the moon nightlight casting gentle shadows. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, smoothed Tyler's hair back from his forehead, thought about that Friday night 6 months ago. The raised hand, the split-second decision. He had risked everything, and gained something more valuable than security, dignity, the knowledge that he had stood up, that he had shown his son what it meant to have boundaries, what it meant to be brave. Tyler stirred slightly. "Dad, hey buddy, sorry I woke you." "It's okay. How was work?" "Good, really good." Tyler smiled sleepily. "I'm glad." "Me too. Go back to sleep." Marcus kissed his forehead, stood up, and walked to the door. As he reached for the light switch, Tyler's voice came again, quiet in the darkness. "Dad, I want to be like you when I grow up." Marcus's throat tightened. "You're already better than me, Ty. You're going to be amazing." He closed the door softly, leaving it cracked the way Tyler liked it. In his own room, Marcus lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. 6 months ago, he thought he might lose everything. Instead, he had gained something he didn't know was missing: the ability to look his son in the eye and know he had set an example worth following. The knowledge that dignity wasn't negotiable. The understanding that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply say no. "No, you can't hit me. No, you can't humiliate me. No, I won't pretend I'm less than I am just to make you comfortable." Marcus Bennett hadn't set out to be a hero, hadn't wanted to be famous, hadn't meant to start a movement. He had just wanted to keep his job and protect his son. But in refusing to be small, he had shown others they didn't have to be small either. And that was worth every risk. That was worth everything. Marcus closed his eyes and let sleep take him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new customers, new moments of decision. But tonight he could rest knowing he had done the right thing, and that his son would grow up understanding that dignity was not something given by others. It was something you claimed for yourself, and once claimed, it could never be taken away. If this story moved you, if Marcus's courage inspired you, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me. Would you have done what Marcus did? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself at work? What happened? Hit that subscribe button. If you believe every worker deserves dignity and respect, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. And smash that like button if you think Marcus is a hero, not for being on camera, but for showing us all what real courage looks like in everyday life. Your support keeps stories like this alive. It reminds people everywhere that standing up for yourself isn't just allowed, it's necessary. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And remember, you are never too small to stand tall.